All right, so today on The Explainer, we're talking about a company that was literally created to solve a massive national crisis. I mean, this is a company that went head-to-head with governments and had to totally reinvent itself just to stay alive. We're digging into the story of HUBCO.
So let's kick things off with a pretty staggering number, $1 billion. Back in the late 1980s, that was the price tag, the annual cost of a kind of invisible crisis that was just crippling an entire nation's economy.
So what could possibly cost that much? Well, the answer was a huge, relentless power shortage. And the story of how Pakistan tried to tackle this problem? Well, that is the story of the company we're breaking down today.
Okay, so to really get why the solution was such a big deal, you first have to wrap your head around just how massive the problem was. See, in the late 80s, Pakistan was growing like crazy, but its power grid, it just couldn't keep pace, not even close. And this right here really paints the picture. Look at that gap. You've got energy demand shooting up by 12% every single year, but the supply side is only growing by 7%. That's a huge shortfall. The country was, quite literally falling deeper and deeper into darkness. And this wasn't just about inconvenient blackouts. We're talking about something that was actively holding back industrial growth, hurting agriculture, and costing the economy that $1 billion a year we mentioned.
So what did the government do? Their solution was, well, it was pretty radical for the time. They basically said, hey, private sector, come on in. Build the power plants, own them, operate them. And this one policy decision completely paved the way for a project that would change everything.
And that's where our company comes in. Out of this new policy, in 1991, the Hub Power Company, or HUBCO as everyone calls it, was born. And this wasn't just another company. It was Pakistan's very first independent power producer, a real pioneer that basically set the blueprint for the next few decades. And make no mistake, this was not just some local project. The deal to get this thing built was a massive landmark in global finance. You had the World Bank involved, major international investors. It was a huge signal to the world that Pakistan was open for some serious business. So what did all that money build? A giant, a true behemoth. This oil-fired power plant out in Balochistan was an absolute engineering marvel. It could pump out 1,292 megawatts of power. Now, to put that in perspective, at the time, that was a massive boost to the national grid, a real, tangible step out of the dark. But, the story is never that simple, right? Just when HUBCO was really getting going, it ran smack into a huge, high-stakes conflict, a fight that didn't just threaten its existence, but shook the confidence of international investors to their very core. Yeah, get this. Just 1 year after the plant was up and running, the government basically turned on its own flagship project. Suddenly, there were accusations flying around, parts of the contract were being torn up, and HUBCO found itself in this incredibly bitter fight with its one and only customer, the government itself. This whole thing just blew up. It escalated into a massive international legal war. We're talking about investors suing for $8 billion. It took years of fighting, but they finally reached a settlement in 2002. And while HUBCO managed to survive, it came at a cost. They had to take a less profitable deal, cutting their expected rate of return from 17% all the way down to 12%. It forced them to completely rethink their entire business. So coming out of that bruising battle, HUBCO was at a crossroads. It could either just stagnate or it could evolve. And while it chose to evolve, this is where it began this incredible strategic shift from a company with just one power plant to a massive, sprawling, diversified energy giant. And they went for it with a really ambitious diversification strategy. They decided we're not just going to be an oil power company anymore. They started branching out everywhere, into hydropower, into coal, both imported and local. They got into oil and gas exploration, and they even dipped their toes into some completely new ventures. And they did this through a whole complex web of subsidiaries and joint ventures. HUBCO basically built a portfolio that looks absolutely nothing like the company that started in the 90s. Today, they operate hydropower dams, several different coal plants, and they've even jumped into the electric vehicle market. I mean, if there's one thing they learned, it's that you can't put all your eggs in one basket. So let's step back. After more than 30 years of all this, the pioneering, the conflict, the complete transformation, what does HUBCO's legacy actually look like today? And this comparison just says it all, doesn't it? You look at the company back in the 90s, one single asset, an oil plant, primarily foreign-owned. And then you look at it today, a primarily locally owned conglomerate with a portfolio of over 3,500 megawatts of capacity spread across all these different fuels and businesses. It is the definition of a story of adaptation and reinvention.
And then, in what is just a stunning full-circle moment, the company recently announced that it was ending its original contract for that very first flagship hub plant. It's truly the end of an era for the asset that literally started everything. So this major move, stepping away from its foundational project, it leaves us with a really big question, right? HUBCO has proven it can survive. It can adapt, it can reinvent itself. But what comes next for the company that started this whole private power journey in Pakistan? That's the billion-dollar question.